Excuse me.
I see you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Uh-oh. I'll turn off my volume.
Can always unmute yourself if you want to comment or anything. Okay, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Tuesday, June 14th. It's a full moon today also, which I didn't actually realize when I planned to do this today. It wasn't the intention, but it's kind of cool. Always lots of seeds for manifesting really amazing things. And I think this conversation around worthiness is definitely an underlying factor in our ability to bring things forward into our life that we're looking to experience. I have to tell you a kind of side story in this whole worthiness piece, and I'll allude and probably have alluded to the fact this has been a journey of mine for a long time. But even in preparation for this, right? So I finished the conversation last week around digestion and then kind of knew this is what I wanted to talk about, but really found myself holding back from wanting to share, feeling able or to share or to have value to share with you. So right away, like this is personal work I want you to know that I'm in the thick of this. I've gone through a lot of it in my past, but it's I don't know that it ever goes away. We just are able to see it differently. Yeah, Heather's like, no, it doesn't go away, but we are able to see it. And so, seeing that part of myself pull back from a little bit of fear or that, do I have enough to offer? Seeing that and doing it anyway, right? Even like right now, I spent all morning writing a script. I was going to like play it while I was reading it and seeing that too, like, no, Diane, you have everything you need to just be able to talk about this and share. So yeah, I have some notes, but I don't, so there's this constant like dance, I think, that we go through if this is something that you're exploring. And so I guess I kind of just want the conversation to start with being like, it is the cliche, perhaps the journey, right? It is ever evolving. It's not going to have a beginning and an end to it. We don't get to quantify this kind of healing in that way. But what you can do is just be open to and committed, I guess, like hitting into your will a little bit, that like, this is work that I'm going to do for myself. And I don't always get to decide how it's going to show up. I don't get to decide how it's going to look, but I know that I'm going to continue to show up for myself. And if you can do that, there's an unlayering of worthiness right there, because you decide to do it for yourself. So I'm going to try to stay a little bit on track with the things that I had written down, but we'll kind of see where it goes. I would invite you, whether you're like here with me, like Heather on the Zoom right now, or if you're watching this live, or if you're coming back for the replay, grab a pen and a piece of paper, or a journal, even better. And not necessarily to take notes, but write down things that land for you, or things that trigger you, or maybe things that you immediately are like, oh yeah, or like the triggers, the things that you're like, well, what the hell is she talking about? That doesn't happen, like all of those things have little invitations within them that you can then go back and continue to explore. And that's, again, this piece of coming back to this work for yourself over a period of time. Couple things that I would encourage you to sort of embrace as we come into this is that curiosity is so wonderful, highly undervalued, I think. And I always use the analogy of a child. I have this picture that I shared one time and I can't get it out of my head. A little tiny child with a magnifying glass, all crouched down in the grass looking at a bug. And just the wonder in this child's eyes, and that the fact that she doesn't care what it is, like there's no good or bad about this freaky looking bug. It's just like, how big are the eyes and how many hairs on its legs and what is that for, right? That's like, hey Mary, how's it going? You might be, I don't know if you're muted, but hi and welcome. So we want to bring this element of curiosity, because when we're curious, we just remove judgment, and judgment, we don't want to go into judgment, right? We want to keep things light. We want to stay on the side of exploring and moving into potential and just trying to learn about ourselves. And that happens when we're curious. So to keep that little image of the child with the magnifying glass in your mind, if you feel that this is starting to get heavy, just take a step back and bring back that element of just innate curiosity. Like, what is this that I'm looking at? Why is this here? Where did it come from? Also, whether you're here on the Zoom and or in the live, or again, catching later, commenting in the group is valuable. It helps whatever you're taking in. If you write it, it like is a way of landing for you. But you will be amazed at, if you share something, the inspiration that provides for other people. And I think, not many of us consider ourselves to be inspirational, perhaps, and yet we are so. And I actually was in a mastermind with Heather last year, and I was always amazed at like the comments that would come from people. And I'm sure Heather experienced this too, to just say, "Oh, Diane, like that made so much sense to me when you said that." And I was like, really? Because that was, kind of crappy feeling for me at the moment or whatever. But we provide so much learning for other people when we share. So if you're willing to be vulnerable or share a thought as a comment, I may not get to it right now when I'm talking because I'm not fully adept at managing all that yet, but to come back to it and people will view it and learn from it. So I would encourage you to do that. What else did I want to say here? Get off the bat. Yeah, like, let's just go and start talking about this, the theme of worthiness. I think for myself and for the clients that end up working with me, which of course that makes sense because they're drawn to me for particular reasons, this being one of them, is that the worthiness piece is something that is common for all of them. And it's certainly common with me, like I said. There are often so many things I think that we're looking to change in our life, or we want to feel differently about something, or we want to take our life in a different direction. If we have a belief underneath somewhere, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, that has us doubting our value, our worth, our ability, our enoughness, then those changes are going to be harder. We're going to hit more roadblocks. We're going to stall, and we may actually even just cycle back into the things that we've been doing that have kept us in this state for a really long time. So one of the cool things about this is just even realizing where those sticky places are in our life. So maybe I talk about nutrition a lot of time. Maybe you have a habit with food and you find yourself going through cycles where you break free of it and you come around and you're doing really good and you cycle back and boom, you're in the exact same spot again and you can't figure it out. And we get into then well, why can't I do it? Well, I'm doing this wrong. Well, that's where a lot of the heaviness comes in. Could be around money too, right? Maybe you get like a big sum of money, you're feeling really great, everything feels lighter, and we go through this big cycle, and then boom, we end up back and we've got debt again, and we've got all this. It's all the same thing. That's why I love this work with worthiness, is because it doesn't matter what part of your life it's showing up in. If it's in one area, there's a good chance that it's going to be affecting you in other areas. And when you decide to work on one area, it impacts all of them. And I think we talked about this actually a couple of weeks ago too, with the cravings conversation. Anytime you decide to put effort into doing some of this deeper stuff, the ripple effect is more than you would have ever imagined it to be. Okay, particularly when we're looking at the beliefs below the surface, because in the grand scheme of things, this is what makes us make decisions. We make decisions based on belief, and it's our decisions that keep us in these cycles or take us in a new direction. Okay, so that's kind of what I want to get into in this conversation a little bit today. One of the questions that often came up for clients when we started doing this work is like, well, like, where do we even start? I had a mentor of mine for a long time. She would say, well, Diane, you have blocks. You have blocks. You don't believe in yourself. You have blocks. I was like, well, great. Yeah, I know. I've struggled with my confidence and my belief in myself, but what the heck do I do about it? Right? Like, where do we even start? And one of the things that was the most profound for me that I think is very can be quite tangible for a lot of us is in language. So I'm going to read you some words that have to do with worth. Okay. And again, if one pops up to you or one triggers you or something, just notice kind of what your reactions are to these words. Okay. So I'm just going to read them out. Worth, value, cost, significance, weight, desirability, greatness, excellence, means, abundance, prosperity, success, resources, acquisition, treasures, affluence, money, and full. Actually, there's one more there, figure. Okay, so like from the dictionary, these are all words that mean worth in some way, shape, or form. And the reason I bring this up again is because what we will hear in the language might be different. Like I might hear the word worth and right away I know that that's something that is like a little triggering for me or I need to like look at. But for somebody else, maybe it's weight, right? And where does your mind go when you hear that? Do you go to like a body weight, or is it like the weight of something you say, or the weight, a measurement of something else, right? Abundance, prosperity, treasures, right? Like the feeling of these words. It's important to pay attention to that. Okay. And then I want you to listen to these words: worthless, empty, valuelessness, cheap, inferior, lousy, poor, deficient, inadequate, insufficient, unacceptable, lacking, failure, loss. Okay, and I'm sure there are more, but again, these are all synonyms from the dictionary that are, same as worthlessness or valuelessness, and which are the ones that you feel a pull to, or which of those feelings do you know, right? Because I think we can say that, like, we know how these things feel. We know how it feels to feel deficient. What has worked really well for me with the language piece is looking and listening for how I use these words and what I hear from other people. Okay, so I got to a point in conversation where I would be talking about things, and it might have always had like an air of being poor or deficient or worthless, right? Just in the words that I was using. And it was recognizing that first got me to start thinking about where my beliefs actually laid in relation to my own worth as a person, as a being, as a soul. Okay. So that is one thing. Like if you're sitting here wondering like, okay, well, I know this is maybe a thing for me, but I don't know where to start. I would start with words. Okay. And again, the cool thing is that you can start to change that immediately. So when you are speaking to someone, notice the words that you are using. And if they have that air of less than or lacking to them, you might blurt the word out and then stop and actually reframe it. Say it in a different way. And we start in that way, actually starting to change the way that we think by the words that we speak. Okay, in terms of what you're hearing from other people, this was really cool too, as I suddenly started noticing how many people I spoke to really had just an overarching feeling of lack. Everything was hard. Everything was a struggle. There was never enough of anything simply by what they spoke. And if that is what is coming out, then there's again this clue to this underlying lack or feeling of worthlessness or lack of value in the self based on what is coming out. And they don't have to be talking about themselves, but again, the energy of that is all the same. Okay. So language is a really, really cool tool. Another thing that brought this to light, and this even happened again just a few weeks ago, is the winter for us was a little bit tricky. My my husband is in like organic gardening. And of course, this climate, there's not a lot of work around here in the winter. And my business kind of did a bloop probably because I was working through worthiness stuff. But I really, really came back to noticing how attached I was to my value, my worthiness in terms of what was like coming in for income or how much I got like reciprocated from other people in business. So how much my value is attached to my work. So this all started to bubble up for me in the winter, and I took myself on a date. I went to a coffee shop. I was like, dang, you know that you're worth it. You know that you're valuable. Let's like remind yourself. So I went on a date with myself. I got a beautiful lunch. I ordered my favorite coffee, and I sat down with my journal, and I just started free writing. And I probably wrote about 10 or 12 pages, but then I went back and read it. And this is a really cool thing too, to try is again, the words popping out, right? And as I read it, seeing the language that I was using that was so, it was lacking. Everything that I was writing about was a struggle. Everything that I was writing about was lack. Everything was hard. I actually remember writing, because I took a picture of it, working so hard. You know, these beliefs that we have that just kind of, they bubble up for us to see, but we have to notice them. And so that's a really cool tool about journaling too, is that you can visually look at what it is that is coming up for you. And then again, take that as a clue, a piece of the puzzle that you can continue to explore along this process. That was really enlightening for me. It helped me come back to a lot of things, and just a gentle reminder that again, this work doesn't end, it just changes, it evolves over time. So this concept of worthiness, okay, so like where does this come from? And it is a belief system. It is a belief system. I think when I started getting into this, I hit a wall because I didn't want to acknowledge the fact that I had picked up a lot of this stuff in childhood. I made it seemed to me that if it came from my childhood, that was putting blame onto my family. I recognize that there are often traumas that people experience growing up and growing through childhood. When I reflected on it, I didn't ever think that I had actually experienced trauma in the way that I had kind of conceptualized it. But in going through this a little bit, just recognizing that it is what we perceive, right? That everything is based on perception, and we extract so much from the world when we're growing up, when we're just tiny, like we start at like the age of 2, and we're just constantly taking information from everything around us. So whether there was an actual like very traumatic event or series of events, or whether we were just extracting information, we build belief systems. Okay, so example I use is when I was little, we lived at, if you know where Camp Kiwanis is, actually my dad was the director there when I was a baby. So until I was 5, that's where I lived, and we would often go to the river. And so I had this, I don't know if it actually happened, maybe that's where this came from, but this thought of like, maybe it was just, I got too close to the water and my mom yelled, no. And my perception at that time was that I was bad, I was wrong, right? There is like it's that kind of thing that we take away. It doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't mean that I'm bad or wrong, but that was a little snapshot that I took at that time based on a perception. And it just gets like stored away in our mind, because there's no way that our conscious mind could actually process all the thoughts that we're having every day, right? So these things get stored away, and we're doing this all the time, right? We get a lot from our family, how we're raised, from our ancestors. We pick up all these things as we go along, and we end up basically with like this folder of storage in our mind. And then as we're going through life later on, we reference those things. So when we come to something that is scary or maybe hurtful or maybe dangerous for us, our mind just like goes back through this stuff, pulls out the file, and we're like, oh, last time you did that, you got hurt. So we're not going to do that again. And boom, you're derailed on another path and you didn't even know. Right? So this is this operating system, the subconscious below the surface, the things that we don't see, that we're not aware of, but it's running all the time. And the cool thing really, the amazing thing about our mind is that it's all there to keep us safe. It's a survival tactic for us, right? That's our brain's way of saying, nope, danger there. Okay, we won't go there. We'll go this way instead. But when it comes to this point in our life and trying to create change for things that are actually beneficial for us, sometimes it can keep us too safe. It can keep us stuck. And so we end up in these cycles of patterns that just keep happening based on this perception we picked up a long time ago. Okay. The other amazing thing, though, about all of this is that we can change. And the plasticity of the mind is amazing, right? And I will tell you right now that if I'm sitting here knowing the changes that I've experienced in my life, both with physical health and working through some of these subconscious things, if I can do this, anyone can do this. Because I remember being on calls like Heather with Jen and being like, how, there's no way. Like, how do you even, like, where do you even start? It's again coming back to this commitment to yourself that I'm going to do this work and I'm going to stay committed to this work for me, but I may not know what exactly it's going to look like. Okay. When it comes to the worthiness piece, again, a lot of these things that we pick up are based on like what we feel that we should have in order to be valued or in order to be worthy. And again, that's things that we often pick up from when we're growing and with our family. So like, you know, I'm not enough unless I am this figure, right? For me, I grew up in a family of elite athletes. I was an overweight kid. I constantly compared myself and judged myself because I didn't look like that body, which was the correct body. So I had a worthiness issue in there to manage because I didn't feel worthy or valued because I didn't look the way I was supposed to look. We're not worthy unless we have a certain amount in the bank account, or we're not worthy unless we get the raise, or we have the new partner, the relationship, or the underlying theme there is always the same, that there's this lack within us, or we feel like it will be fixed once we get something different. But the underlying gap there is again this kind of lack or this hole where we are missing or we have forgotten a belief that we have everything within us that we need. That if we were standing in a room by ourselves, all alone, stripped down with nothing to show for anything we've ever done, we are worthy right now. We're worthy of health. We're worthy of whatever financial goals you have, abundance, joy, peace, freedom. We're worthy of it all. And it's this work of coming back to this remembering of this that has been kind of piddled away over the years through challenges, through hardships, through heartbreak, through hurt. And we get to come back to ourselves and remember this innate, inherent, divine essence within us that is worthiness. We are valuable regardless of how we look or what we have. And like I said, it is this remembering, this coming home or coming back to this knowing, right? Where do I want to go? I'm going off in my brain here, so I'll go there with you. I see two. Mary gets me. She knows I go off sometimes. There are two ways that I have seen people approach this idea of sort of a limiting concept or a limiting belief of self. I've heard it referred to shadow work. On one hand, we can approach this with like, I'm broken. It's not working for me. It's really hard. I don't know how to do this. I don't have the resources within me to do this. I'm stuck. I keep encountering the same cycles. You see how we get, right? The limiting belief, even that name bothers me because it does have this limiting feel about it. And limiting is where we are now. We are limited by this belief. We don't want to stay there. So I don't like to call it that. I started working with clients around food, wondering like, you have all the information. This is when I first started my work and I was still figuring things out. This is what you need to do. These are the foods you need to eat. These are the foods you don't need to eat. Here's the meal plan and go. And they'd be good for a couple of weeks. And then they'd come back into that cycle, right? And I didn't understand at that point in time the importance of this underwork, the deeper work, or the limiting beliefs, the worthiness piece for these clients. So taking that limiting kind of feel from it, now when I'm working with clients, we refer to these as, we talk about what they are, kind of like we are now, but these are gateway beliefs. These are portals for you. This is the opportunity for you to change right here. This hard thing that you're looking at that you probably aren't totally sure how to work with, but you sort of know it's there. That's where you step through. That's where the transformation takes place, is right on the other side of that thing. So I had a coach tell me one time, I was thinking actually about making an investment with her that was bigger than I'd ever spent on anything. And I was in tears. I was crying. I was like, I don't have the money. I don't know how this is going to work. I can't afford this. And she was just like, Diane, she's like, it feels like a really big wall, right? This belief here that I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. This big solid wall that you have to break through. And it's going to be really, really hard. And you're going to be hammering away at this thing. And I'll never forget, she said, Diane, it's not a solid wall. It's like, all you have to do is touch it and it falls over. Like, it's like little foam blocks that your kids play with, right? They build this huge structure. They spend like all day building this big structure, and it looks like, and you just touch it, like one little poke, and it all melts away. And that's what I feel like when we get into these, like the limiting belief or the gateway belief. I want it to be a gateway belief. I'm going to touch on that wall. I'm going to keep poking at it, and I'm going to bust through it, because everything that I want, that I keep saying are the way that I want my life to feel, like that's where it is. It's right on the other side. So, just kind of be aware of, if you're listening to this conversation, like, where do your thoughts go when you think of this work around worthiness? Is it hard? Is it scary? Is it heavy? And just remember that it's actually an opportunity. It's actually the step for you to get to that next level of yourself. The thing that you want is right there. And I get so excited about that, which is really where we create movement in our life, is when there is excitement and fun and possibility and opportunity. That's when we move, right? We don't move when we're scared. That's our another adaptation. We just stay closed in, right? Safe, secure in our little bubble. We can't stay in our bubble if we want to experience these changes. So we want to embrace the possibility of working on these beliefs and what's available to us when we take these little steps. Sorry, like I said, I do have some notes here that I am just looking at very quickly. Okay, I said in my little bullet points, we're going to talk about 4 things. So I'm not sure where we are in that, but I did want to talk about actually some things that I have found to be effective. Because I spend a lot of time going, well, yeah, I know that that's there, but I have no idea what to do about it. So we talked about the language piece. That was one. The language is huge. Listening, speaking, writing, reading what you have written will give you some really powerful clues. And we talked about curiosity, which I think is really an overarching feeling or energy that you want to bring into this journey all the time. Like I was saying about prepping my script for the beginning. The other thing I did before the call started is I cleaned up like all the crap that was on the floor back here. Why? Because I care what people think about my space. Why? Does it really matter? Right? It's just, I still put it away, but I'm aware. Right? I'm aware of when these little niggles pop up into my head. And it's almost like you've got the angel and the devil kind of characters on your shoulders that can look at it. And the devil will be like, yeah, put that all away. It really, really matters what people think about your space. You'll be, they'll think you're good or bad because of that. And this little one over here is like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm still the same person, regardless of whether it's a plastic bag with my kids' toys that are going to the salvage center in it or not. Right? But these are the things we get to start to notice. And it's the curiosity element in that allows me to connect with this little like angel figure that's like, oh yeah, that's still there. Okay, well, we'll look at that. Right? it does bring such a lightness and an ease to this work. If you don't follow this lady, you should follow her. Her name is Dr. Cassie Huckabee. I share a bunch of her stuff all the time on Instagram. She's a naturopath, she does quantum medicine, and her two big things that I've extracted from her, this is a little bit off the topic, but your life is your medicine, and that we follow what is true. And those are two messages that she tells all the time. I love the way that she words things. She spoke the other day about, and this is where I'm going, about effort versus struggle, right? And I think this is what curiosity does for me in this experience, is like, I can be in the struggle, like clawing through the muck, trying to figure all this shit out, or I can be in effort. Yes, there is effort to this work, but it's laced with opportunity and curiosity and the joy of being able to do this work, right? So it has a different feel to it. And curiosity, I feel, is what allows me to differentiate between those two. We talked about journaling. I would like, so often when I start with the clients, I'm like, get a journal, and you can just see them like sit differently in their seat. They're like, ugh. You don't have to journal for like 20 minutes at a time, 20 minutes, half an hour. It doesn't have to sit down and be an epic writing adventure. It can be, but it can be just a couple minutes. It can be making a list. It can be setting a timer. 7 is actually a cool number. There's lots of things in nature and in our world that align with the number 7. And just free writing and see what comes out. And sometimes people will say, well, they're like, well, I don't know what to write. And I'll say, then write that. Literally write. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be writing right now. This feels really dumb, blah, blah. You will be amazed at what pours out of you. And these are the things that you can then come back and explore further. If you're not a writer, record your voice. Record yourself speaking and come back to it later. Okay, there's lots of ways that we can kind of extract thoughts from our mind in terms of what journaling looks like. Another thing that I'd encourage you, like, again, after this is done, if you're reflecting on this a little bit, where are the patterns in your life? What patterns have been showing up for a really long time? Like, have relationships always been a struggle? Do you always find yourself in a relationship with the same kind of person? Has that been a challenge? Is money a challenge, right? Do you go through cycles of like lots and lots of money and then debt, or like, what is the flow of energy there? Like, is there challenges around food and your relationship with your body and what it looks like and how it feels? Is that something that's been playing in your life for a long time? Do you continue, like, do different health conditions keep popping up for you, right? You kind of finally get through something and then something else comes up. Like, are you sick all the time? This was a big one for me. Conversations and confrontations. Do you immediately pull back from any kind of possibly challenging conversation? Okay. Do you make commitments and break them? Like, just take that magnifying glass and just turn it with curiosity on yourself and look for patterns. Because often it's where we find these patterns cycling, that the underlying thing that's keeping them running is the worthiness theme. There's a lack of belief in self, a lack of worth or value in self that causes us to make decisions that keep us coming back to the way things have always been, because that's all we know. But again, when you turn that magnifying glass on yourself, if this can then be the invitation, once you see the pattern, acknowledge that this is where the change happens. It's right here in this thing that keeps happening. This is what I get to shift. We break the cycle when we start to break our pattern, our feeling around worthlessness, I should say. Okay. The other thing that's so important in all of this is to acknowledge how far you've come. Like, even if you're just starting this conversation with yourself, I guarantee you're not the same person that you were a long time ago, right? We change all the time, and we can extract bits of belief when we don't have it yet from acknowledging where we have come from celebrating the little wins And sometimes the celebrations don't even feel like wins at the moment. It's actually something hard that you did. And then you reflect on it and you're like, oh yeah, but I did it. And that is the celebration. Okay. Again, sometimes I'm chatting with clients, I'm like, what are you celebrating this week? And they won't know. Right. So it's even sometimes coaching people to go back and look at what they've done through the week. What are the hard things that you have done? What are the wins that you've had? We get to celebrate all of that. And again, it's when we acknowledge the small steps, we build belief in our ability to continue to take the small steps. We don't need to clear this all at once. We can't. So what little tiny step are you going to take forward for yourself to prove or build belief in your worth? Maybe it's as something as simple as at work, there's multiple things coming up, all these things landing on you, and you just find some way to step up and say, actually, no, I can't take that on. There's a boundary there for yourself that you've created to allow yourself to take care of you. There's worthiness under that. Okay. Maybe it's you reached into the cupboard for the bag of chips and decided to put it back. Maybe you filled your plate, like huge plate, and you put some of that back. Like maybe that's part of your journey, your worthiness about making decisions around food that really nourish you, not just fill a space, but really nourish you. Maybe it's, I told my partner he needed to watch the kids so I could go for a walk, right? It's like celebrating all these little things, because underneath, if you didn't believe that you were worthy of taking care of yourself, you wouldn't do those things for yourself, right? This is when I really see things start to change for people. And in my own life, this is when things have changed, both physically in my health and in the life that I've been trying to create. When I put myself first. And if we haven't been able to do that yet, it is worthiness or your perceived value that I encourage you to explore. Because once you can put yourself first, not because you need to show up at work, not because you need to be a better mom, not because you need to do all the things for everybody else, only because you're you, that's when you can start to see these little shifts happen. And again, it'll be one little thing at a time. You'll take a nap one day. You're like, oh, I never used to do that. Did I really want a nap? Yeah, I did. Did I ask for one? I got people to help me? Yes, great. There, I did a little worthy deed for myself today, right? It happens little by little over time. Another tool, and again, one that is often limited by our own limiting beliefs, is meditation and mindful practices. And often when I introduce meditation, the first response is, well, I can't meditate. I can't do that. My thoughts are all over the place. And so even there, right, we see this, that I can't, there's like this limit that we're putting on ourselves. It doesn't need to be there. Or is it going to be perfect right away? No, but there's no perfect when it comes to meditation. It's a practice. It's always evolving, just like all of this. But it will allow you to continue to develop this awareness of what you are thinking and decide if it is true or not, right? That we can change our thoughts. And meditation, it can be sit for 30 seconds and breathe one day and start there. And then maybe one day, all of a sudden, you'll be like, oh, I just did that for 2 minutes. That wasn't so bad, right? What came up? Oh, maybe that's something I can look at later. I think part of the worthiness piece, we can get a lot into this idea of perfection, right? We're worthy when this and this and this and this all line up for us and everything is perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. So we can work on releasing that too. Meditation isn't going to be perfect. It's an experience and it's always going to be changed because you're always changing. Mindfulness too. I think sometimes this, again, idea that I have to sit and be still for a really long time in order for it to work. One of my favorite places to practice mindfulness is unloading the dishwasher because I hate it. I hate it. I'm always trying to do it fast. There's always something else that I want to be getting to, right? At that moment in time, I'm unloading the dishwasher because there's no clean dishes and we're trying to eat or whatever it is. So it's something now that I actually force, I don't know if that's the right word, but I make myself slow down. Like I try to put the utensils in without clinking. I try to put the plate in one at a time instead of like grabbing all of them at once and trying to stack them into the cupboard, right? That is a mindful practice. You could, if you're like really kinesthetic, you like playing catch, go play catch, but make it a mindful practice. Feel the ball in your hand, feel the ball hit the glove, feel the ball off the bat. Like there, we can, I think it's been sort of really limited in how we can practice being mindful walking, mindful vacuuming, mindful conversation. It's whatever you decide to focus on. And all of it, again, will deepen your own practice of awareness in your life daily, moment to moment, when these things come up and you catch yourself in a thought that used to mean, well, I can't do that because I don't have what I need to do that. I'm not enough to do that. And you'll catch yourself and you'll make a different decision. That's that mindful piece in this process. Now, I feel that I should ask, there's my should for the day, that I should ask for questions, but I'm really not that efficient currently at managing the chat. Oh, there is a chat in there. I'm going to see what it is. Free writing part that I've done, haven't ever gone back to look. Yeah. Read it, and you will see, I'm sure, some really cool things pop up. And then Heather, I'm with you on that one. Got to clean the space before I go. Yeah. Or like, I've often dabbled at how fun it would be to have a housekeeper. Like when I started exploring my money beliefs, I was like, why couldn't I have a housekeeper? But I literally, at this point, I would still clean my house first, right? I would clean my house before they came. So there's just, and I guess like I'm smiling, right? I laugh at these things now when they come up because I'm just like, oh man, there's so much that, but again, that's like, we get to do this, you guys. We get to do this work. It is a privilege for us to give this attention to ourselves. And again, as you work with the worthiness, you will do it more because you believe and you know and you understand your worth. Cool. I'm glad I checked the chat. So many people I know have said I have to clean up before the cleaning person comes. Yeah. And this recognizing like we are not doing this alone. Like this theme, this is why I talked about this, because for so long I was like, oh, I'm so messed up. Like my confidence is shit. I don't believe in myself. I don't know how, right? I'm not the only one that feels that way. Of all, like I said, of all the clients that I've worked with, the things that hold them back is this underlying belief about what their worth is, what their value is. And so, yeah, we talk about food a lot, but we talk about all this because this is what bolsters all of the action in life. Okay. So I feel that I am going to now turn over to this visualization that I want to share with you. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it after the fact, because I want you to have your sort of own experience with this. So I'm actually, for a minute here, I'm going to go dark. I'm going to turn my screen off and you can do the same. You can lay down. You can sit comfortably in your chair. If you want to pop out for a second, grab a blanket or something comfy, do that. And I'll wait a minute and then I'm going to turn my screen off and you'll just hear my voice. So I'm excited to take you through this. This is one that will reaffirm your worth and is something that you can come back to listen to again. What I'm going to try to do also is record it. If I don't record it on another device, I'll take a snippet of this later. And if you want to re-listen to it, you can if it resonates with you. So I'll give you a moment to break and get the things that you need to get. Or if you're comfy right now where you are, then you can just sit back. If you're in your chair, just comfortable spine, feet flat on the floor. If you're laying down, sort of similar concept. Your feet won't be flat on the floor, probably, but just resting, comfortable. I'm just quickly checking to see we are good. All right. Give me 1 second here. Right. So welcome to this visualization for healing and remembering, coming home to your inherent worth, this belief, this value that is inside of you that is actually undescribable. It's divine, it's inherent. We're going to help you remember that today. So wherever you are, if you're laying down or if you're seated, just getting really comfortable. You can rest your hands either palms up on your legs or on the ground. Palms up is just signifying kind of an opening to the universe, to consciousness, allowing that flow. If palms down feels more grounded or more secure for you, that works equally as well. This, again, will just kind of keep you grounded through the visualization today. You can do whichever feels better for you. And if your eyes aren't already closed, I'll invite you to close them. You can take a moment to start directing your focus to any areas of pressure where you feel your body against the surface that supports you. So you may notice this connection with the surface, this pressure under your feet or the backs of your legs, or your seat, your elbows, the backs of your hands, your upper back, the back of your head. Just noticing any sensation in your body and allowing yourself to settle, settling into stillness, into ease. You can start feeling heavier and feel supported. Right now, you can let go. And then start to bring more of your focus, more your attention to your breath. So breathing in through your nose, follow your breath back into your throat, into your chest, your ribs, your belly. When you feel full, just exhale completely. You allow the breath to flow out through the nose, or maybe exhale with a sigh, whatever feels right in the moment. Just allow it to drop. And then breathing in again, this time taking a bit of a pause at the top of your inhale and just holding that for a moment, noticing that stillness. And then again, exhaling completely, allowing the breath to flow out of you, and a slight pause again at the bottom. And beginning your next cycle with an inhale when you feel the urge to breathe start to bubble up inside of you. Just continue breathing in this way for a few more rounds, breathing in completely, pausing, exhaling completely, and pausing. If at any time this starts to feel overwhelming or you find that you can't catch your breath, just notice that, but allow yourself to return to a more natural rhythm. Noticing with this nice, slow, cyclical breathing that you're feeling very relaxed. And feeling your body against your support, you're feeling very supported and safe. And as you bring yourself back to your natural, organic rhythm of breath, start to visualize yourself walking into a forest. You are barefoot. You can feel the softness of the woodsy earth intermingled with the edges of pine needles and leaves and twigs and tree roots. And with every step, just feel your body connecting with the energy of Earth, our Mother Earth, nourishing your body, nourishing your mind and your soul with every step. It feels so good just to walk slowly and soak it all in. As you're walking, you allow your fingertips to brush the branches of the trees. You gaze up to the mighty treetops and beyond into this brilliant blue sky, speckled with soft, fluffy clouds. And in this space, in this time, you feel totally at peace, totally at ease, safe and supported. And as you continue to walk, you come upon a clearing and you realize that you have wandered upon a beautiful mountain lake, surrounded by the most majestic mountains that you have ever seen. You can hear the wind up high as it rushes past the mountain peaks above you. But your gaze is focused on the water. You cannot even believe the sight of this water. Just looking at it, you feel cleansed, you feel light. The color of the water is the most staggeringly beautiful blue-green that you have ever seen. And you can see all the way to the rocky bottom. You can even see the fish. Cool, clear, crisp, enticing water. And as you look out to the lake, you are overwhelmed by the beauty of the sparkle from the sun's reflection on the water. Your focus shifts from the water itself and the color of the water to the color of the light. This light shimmering on the surface of the water, it is the most brilliant, most beautiful, most healing, most divine light that you have ever seen. It's golden and white at the same time, and it seems to encompass everything before you. This light, it seems to be calling you and it welcomes you. Even though you are completely alone, you have no thought, no, or worry of anyone seeing you as you strip your clothes off and you begin to walk towards the water. You drop your clothes onto the ground beside you and you start to wade into the water as it invites you in. You allow yourself to wade slowly. You enjoy the sensation of the water at your toes and your ankles, your shins, your thighs, your buttocks, your waist, your breasts, and you just continue to move closer towards this sparkle. This sparkle is calling you. And suddenly you realize that you are completely enveloped in this light. The sparkle that led you into the water is now everywhere. And as you wade and swim playfully in the water, you are in fact not only basking in this light, you are this light. As it holds you and caresses your skin and nourishes your spirit, it radiates from within you. You rest in the water, floating on your back, not a care in the world. You are safe and supported. You are happy. As you float there peacefully, this realization comes upon you again that you are no longer separate from the sparkle. It no longer rests solely on the water's surface, but has completely enveloped you. You have become it. It is shining brilliantly from within you, stretching out in all directions, touching everything it sees, into the cosmos, into eternity. Your sparkle, your magic, your inherent divinity, beauty, abundance, your worth, your light is the one light. It has always been there. It will always be there. And in this moment, you bask in the remembering of your divine light. As you lay there enjoying this remembering, you say, I am created by divine light. I am sustained by divine light. I am protected by divine light. I am surrounded by divine light. I am ever growing into divine light. With ease, you find that you have gracefully floated your way back to shore. You feel the pebbles underneath you, inviting you back onto solid ground. You find your clothes, you put them on to begin your journey back into the forest. But despite having left the water, you continue to glow. The light within you shines brilliantly. It offers healing, support, and guidance, and a constant reminder for you of your divinity and worthiness. As you return happily to the forest, feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, you repeat to yourself again, I am created by divine light. I am sustained by divine light. I am protected by divine light. I am surrounded by divine light. I am ever growing into divine light. Very slowly, you can start to bring yourself back. The forest and the lake and the mountains and the sparkle are always here in this visualization for you to return to. They are always with you in your mind's eye to return to anytime that you need it. Before you open your eyes, just take a moment to visualize the room around you. Feel your chair and your props beneath you. Begin to draw awareness back to your breath, inhaling and exhaling completely. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So I'm going to turn my video back on. I would invite you to do the same if you feel that you are ready. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to share that with you. The vision of light sparkling off the water is the one thing that I always come back to when I am forgetting, perhaps for a moment, my own divine inherent worthiness. And so I find that having this image, anytime I see that sparkle on the water, whether it's a lake or a river, whatever it might be, I'm reminded of this process and this work that I'm doing for myself. And so I hope that that's something that, if that resonated with you, if you enjoyed the experience of that, that's something that you can come back to too. One last thing that I wanted to mention before I go is something that's been kind of interesting, and it's never, again, right? I started this conversation saying that we don't get to decide how this all works for us, how the healing is quantified or how it works or ends up for us. I mentioned sort of the little dip in personal I don't want to say development, but the experience, right? The challenges that I was having in the winter. And I felt like I had hit a bit of a wall with this whole worthiness piece for myself, because there was so much of what was showing up in my life now that I felt I had healed, or I had done the work. And so it should be looking different. I shouldn't be having these challenges. And one of the tools that really assisted me through this process was Reiki. So I became certified. I also went and had several treatments. What was interesting for me, though, is it came about that I had done a lot of healing work for this version of myself right now in this time and place. But there was still a part of me from a long time ago, the teenage Diane, the childhood Diane that didn't believe in herself or feel that she was worthy, that needed some healing in that time. And this wasn't really anything that had come into my awareness yet. And it might sound a little crazy to you, depending on where you are in your own journey. However, it massively shifted things for me in a very short period of time. Like after a Reiki treatment with intention focused on sending light and healing to the past me that needed that healing, I experienced shifts within moments and within days. Now, again, this is if you're not familiar with Reiki, it might sound a little bit frou-frou at the moment, but it is a truly, truly magical and transformational and so relaxing process, energy healing that you can access, and anyone can access it, whether you learn it yourself or you seek support from a practitioner. And there are amazing practitioners out there all over the place that would help you with this. Yeah, Reiki's so awesome. I never thought like the logical thought, right, that says, well, it should go this way and this way and this way, that I should direct healing to my past self, the young me that really struggled with all of this. And yet when I did that, changes happened now. So remember that you don't really get to decide how it looks, and it doesn't all get to make sense. But if you continue to put the effort forward for yourself in this work on reaffirming your worth, using Reiki for years, Reiki for the past self was amazing. The distance healing, right? Distance, not only in distance of location, but in time. So anyways, I offer that just as a kind of an extra little nugget or something to explore, because again, this is going to look different for all of us. And it was never anything that I would have thought of, and yet provided me with such wonderful, wonderful assistance. So I've been going on now for like an hour. So I think that I'm coming to the end. I just want to thank you again, all of you, for being open to having these conversations, for hearing my perspective on things, for providing a space for me to continue to do my work on worthiness and having my voice heard. And hopefully there is value in that for all of you as I share. I love talking about this stuff. So if you ever want to chat, if I can ever be a support, if Reiki is a thing for you that you want to explore, whatever it is, I hope that you'll just take steps that you know that are for you and whatever's going to continue to support you on your journey. This recording, the live, will be in the group if you want to go back and listen to it. Like I said, I will be taking a snippet of the visualization if you want that to listen to it again. Also, I encourage you to try it on your own, because your vision of what is going to remind you of that worthiness piece might look different than it was for me. But there's lots of power in what we see in our mind and the way that it will support the work that you're doing in your life. So thank you very much, very, very much for being here. And I hope that I will see you again. Like last week, I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week, but I'll keep you posted. Okay. Bye. Things are falling.